The first European explorers in North Dakota were trappers and fur traders. I'm Mike Anderson with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. My guest this week is Stephanie Tucker, fur-bearer biologist. Explain that, Stephanie.
Sure, it's pretty neat to think that, the first people that came to North Dakota to explore it and settle it came here for something like the beaver. Beaver was extremely high demand in Europe at the time for top hats, the felt that is used in top hats, and it funded exploration of this entire area of what is now the United States and North Dakota. Back then, the trapping and the fur trade was completely unregulated. Even though beavers were abundant, there was no regulations limiting the time of year that you could take them or the amount that you could be taken. And so, believe it or not, during the 1930s and North Dakota and 40s, we actually translocated and relocated beavers all over the state of North Dakota to replenish the populations after unregulated trapping had lowered their numbers to almost be extirpated in the state.
Steph, let's talk about our most popular fur bearer, the coyote.
Sure, you're absolutely right. Coyotes are one of our most abundant fur bearers in North Dakota and one of our most popularly hunted and trapped fur bearers in North Dakota. And so harvest is usually pretty good on coyotes, especially when the fur market is doing really well. And there's a little extra money in it for hunters and trappers who harvest coyotes. And so coyotes are popular not only by trapping or use of cable devices, but also predator calling. And then the last several years, after we legalized methods for night hunting, that's another way, people night hunt coyotes with predator calls, and they have a lot of fun and success doing that as well.
Okay, and the population's pretty good, so you guys are launching a program, have launched a program called the Coyote Catalog. Explain that a little bit.
Right, coyotes, again, very abundant, widespread, found throughout the entire state. And sometimes we have a situation where landowners are uncomfortable with the number of coyotes they're seeing or hearing or on their property, but they haven't had any hunters come and knock on their door and ask to hunt, hunters or trappers. And so for those situations, we encourage landowners to sign up on the Department of Ag's website as a landowner willing to open their land up to coyote hunting or trapping. And then the coyote hunters or trappers can go on our website and sign up for the Coyote Catalog. And what'll happen is when the hunter or trapper signs up, they indicate which counties they're willing to travel to hunt. And when a landowner signs up in one of those counties, we randomly select, a number of hunters or trappers that have indicated they'll hunt in that county and give them the contact information for that landowner. And then it'll be up to the hunter or trapper at that point to contact the landowner and find out exactly where the property is and what kind of activities they're going to allow on their land.
Okay, let's move on to the river otter season. We've had a otter season for 3-4 years now. It closed quick this year.
It did. We had some amazing weather, which I think had a lot to do with the quick turnaround on the harvest limit. It could also be an indication that our population of river otters is doing really well. And we know that we're managing a pretty conservative harvest season, trapping season on river otters in the state. But again, with the good weather, the season went fast. The season was only open 1 week until we met the harvest limit of 20 river otters. And so we just continue. It's nice to see after a couple years, we still have a lot of interest in that season.
As I've been traveling the state for the last month or so, Steph, I've noticed a lot of muskrats this year.
Yeah, so muskrats are this smaller semi-aquatic fur bearer, and they're a member of they're one of the rodents, and they have the ability to cycle in North Dakota. And so when habitat conditions and food supplies are good, about every 9 or 10 years, we see kind of this population boom in the state. And we're kind of climbing on that population trend right now. We're getting to the point where we would expect to see muskrat numbers going up in the state if the habitat conditions are good. Again, they're semi-aquatic, so they need water, and then the vegetation in and around water is what they feed on primarily. And so, so we're seeing this increase. With that, people might notice more muskrat huts or lodges when they're driving around, where they build up these feeding or warming houses that they can escape out from underneath the ice during the winter and stuff like that. So they construct these huts so they can get out from underneath the ice.
Let's move on to the mountain lions. Early mountain lion season is closed.
Yeah, so we had 2 mountain lions taken in Zone 1 during the early season. The late season is open now, which opened the Monday after deer gun season closed. The difference between the early season and the late season in Zone 1, again, is in the late season, you're allowed to use hounds to pursue mountain lions and bay mountain lions. And so there is a harvest limit in the late season of 7. And so whenever 7 or 3 females gets taken in the late season, that season will close. You know, the other thing about mountain lions is we typically don't have a lot of harvest during the late season, or things don't get very active until we get snow on the ground. And so we haven't had any harvest during the late season yet, but I anticipate as soon as we get some snow where the hounds can track mountain lions a lot better, we'll have some harvest.
Stephanie, I had a question posed to me recently. What do people do with all these harvested fur bears?
Sure, that's a great question. So, like the collective name for fur bears implies, their primary value is their fur. So, in addition, there are several fur bear species that are commonly consumed by hunters and trappers, but again, their primary value is their fur. And the use of fur pelts, there's an international market for fur pelts. And so people will sell the fur off of their carcasses, and most of those pelts go for the making of garments. And fur is one of the warmest products nature provides. There's no warmer material provided by nature. And so the nice thing about fur also is that it's a biodegradable resource. So fur bear populations in North Dakota are only hunted or trapped if they're abundant and widely available in the state. And so we manage those populations for a sustainable harvest. All the species that are hunted or trapped for their fur in North Dakota, we monitor population trends to ensure those hunting and trapping seasons are not detrimental to the species. And then again, the fur is harvested and it's sent, it can be sold in a variety of ways. In North Dakota, it's common for fur harvesters to sell to maybe a local fur buyer who travels around the state and buys fur from individual hunters and trappers. Some hunters and trappers will send off, they'll put up their own fur, and when I say put up, that's kind of trapper jargon, means that they will take the pelt off the animal, they flesh it and stretch it and dry it so that it's ready to be marketed in an international auction. And then they'll send it off to a bigger auction house that helps them broker their fur to buyers all around the world.
Okay. On a different note, there's still plenty of opportunities for hunting and trapping fur bears this year and into next year, but there are some rules on wildlife management areas that we should cover.
Sure. Right. So hunters and wildlife management areas are open to hunting and trapping of fur bearers. It's one of those late season activities when a lot of other hunting seasons are winding down. And so we just like to remind people that any equipment you leave on our wildlife management areas has to be marked or identified with your name, address, or telephone number, or your equipment ID number. And so if you want an equipment ID number, you just log onto your account on the Game and Fish website, and there's a simple click of a button there that generates an equipment ID number for you. Not only can this be used for your traps left on wildlife management areas, but you can also use it for your ice houses, if you're ice fishing and leaving your ice house overnight unattended. You can also use it for trail cameras or tree stands or ground blinds left on our wildlife management areas as well.
A lot of great information, Stephanie. Thank you.
For more information on hunting or trapping fur bears in North Dakota, visit the Game and Fish Department's website at gf.nd.gov.
For fur bear biologist Stephanie Tucker and the rest of the staff here at the Game and Fish Department, thanks for joining us for this week's program. We'll see you again next week.